There was always a certain rhythm in the White House. Every day was like a difficult chess game. Everyone knew how important it was to maintain an external balance and an idea of family harmony. But behind the scenes of this grandiose performance, among these formal smiles and festive dinners, there were feelings and experiences that remained out of the public eye. Melania Trump is a woman with a strong inner world, who got used to her role next to Donald, always knew that her place next to him was beyond doubt. She understood how important her support was, how important it was to maintain his confidence. However, over the years of living together, Milania got used to seeing him as her partner, not just as her husband. They had a special mutual understanding, and it was maintained not only by external harmony, but also by internal strength. But then Caroline Leavitt came along, a young, bright, energetic press secretary who immediately attracted the attention of not only journalists, but also Donald. Milania, of course, noticed her. At first, she tried to ignore it, thinking it was just part of the job. However, over time, she began to notice that their interactions were becoming more personal, that Caroline was increasingly close to Donald, whether at work meetings or after them. At first, it was nothing more than a few words, a few short smiles. But every time Caroline was around, Milania began to feel her inner tension increase. It wasn't just looks. It was some subtle hint of something more. There was no room for doubt in her heart. She couldn't let this go on. She was not a woman prone to jealousy or conflict, but in this case, Milania felt that her feelings had been compromised. And this concern began to grow gradually. One evening, after a long day, when the White House was empty and Donald was still in a meeting, Milania sat in their private room, feeling her anxiety grow. She knew that right now she needed to talk to him, to talk frankly. Her thoughts revolved around one question. How do I make everything go back to normal? When Donald entered the room, Milania immediately felt the atmosphere becoming tense. He was tired, but he still noticed her gaze. Is something wrong? Donald asked, taking off his suit. No, it's okay, it's just, I need to talk to you. Her voice was calm, but there was some uncertainty in it. Donald sat down next to her. He was a man who was used to having his problems solved quickly and efficiently. But at that moment, something about Milania's mood immediately caught his attention. He was silent, giving her time. Donald, I've noticed that you spend a lot of time with Caroline. She's your colleague, and I understand that this is an important part of your job, but I feel like the boundaries are starting to blur. I can't explain it, but it's hard for me to watch her around you all the time. Milania spoke calmly, but her voice trembled a little as she said those words. She had always been worried about the idea of being vulnerable, but at this moment she realized that it was important to be honest. Donald, listening to her, was surprised. He never thought that his relationship with Caroline could cause such feelings in Milania. He was sure that everything that happened between him and Caroline was extremely professional. Milania, I don't understand. You know I'm always on your side. You're my wife. Caroline is a job. I never wanted to upset you. Donald leaned forward to look into her eyes. His words were sincere, but he didn't quite see how it could have been any different from Milania. Milania sighed, feeling the weight of her words melt away a little, but not completely. I understand what you're saying, Donald, but I don't like it when someone gets so close to our world, and I can't help but feel that it creates tension that I don't want in our home. I don't want to fight it. I just want us to be honest with each other. Her words were soft, but full of pain. At that moment, Donald understood. He realized that his wife wasn't just jealous. She didn't want any conflict. She just felt threatened by their relationship. And it was more than just a feeling of jealousy. It was a need for confidence, for support, and for trust. You're right. I should have thought more about it. I appreciate you, Milania. And the most important thing to me is your sense of peace and confidence in our marriage. I'll try to be more attentive. Donald looked at her sincerely, and his words were not empty. Milania felt the tension that had been building up inside her gradually go away. She saw how Donald was sincerely trying to understand her feelings, and this was an important moment for her. It was a confirmation that their union wasn't just about external success. He was alive, and they could support each other even in the most difficult situations. Thank you, Donald. I just want everything to be the same as before, so that we can trust each other. She smiled, and it was a calm, confident smile. "You can always trust me, Milania, and I will do everything to make you feel loved and supported." These words ended the conversation, leaving a new level of trust in their relationship. Milania felt that everything would be all right. It was a moment when her feelings were heard, and she could return to calmness again, knowing that her family would remain her world. When Milania expressed her feelings, Donald was a little silent at first. He was surprised because he had never suspected that his relationship with Caroline could cause such feelings in Milania. He always believed that her anxiety was just a moment of jealousy that was passing. However, when he saw how much Milania was worried, he realized that it was much more important to her. The moment of silence lasted for several seconds, but they were saturated with meaning. Donald, who was used to being the center of attention and controlling the situation, realized that at this moment he needed not only to find an excuse, but to really pay attention to her words. He came closer, his gaze became more serious, and he finally spoke. "Milania, you have always been by my side, supported me, and I am grateful to you for that. You know that I value our family the most. You're my wife, and I have to take care of you first. I never wanted you to feel uncomfortable or questioned about our marriage." His voice was warm and sincere. He sensed her concern and knew he had to take responsibility. "You're telling the truth. I could have been more attentive myself. You're important to me, and I don't want Caroline or anyone else to get in our way." He paused to make sure that Milania understood his words. He knew that, for her, it was much more than just talking about work or colleagues. After listening to him, Milania felt her anxiety gradually go away. There was confidence in her eyes again. Donald really understands how important their union is, and that's what she always appreciates about him. "I know, Donald. I don't want any misunderstandings between us. All I wanted was for you to know how I feel. I trust you, and it's important to me that you feel the same way." She smiled softly, feeling relieved. Donald looked at her with an expression that combined concern and gratitude. "You don't have to worry, Milania. I will do everything to make you feel loved and respected. You're my rock, and you will always be the most important woman in my life." Donald took her hand, and the gesture was full of confidence and concern. At that moment, looking at each other, they both realized that despite all the external difficulties, their relationship had become stronger. Their union, built on trust and understanding, remained the top priority in their lives. And this knowledge gave them both inner peace and confidence in the future. Donald looked at Melanie, nodded thoughtfully, and said with a slight smile, "Good. Consider that Caroline won't bother you anymore. You're more important to me." Melania sighed softly with relief. A slight smile touched her lips. "I'm glad you finally realized that." Donald grinned, took her hand, and bending down slightly added, "You've always been the smartest of the two.